Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here. I had hoped to get a haircut and actually take a and be dressed for y'all today, but I ran out of time, so I've still got my shaggy hair and my blazer and my blue jeans on. But I still welcome y'all to City Hall. We are fortunate today to have members of the City Council here, the Board of Supervisors, our state representatives, and representatives for the federal government too here. There were others that had hoped to be here, but their schedules didn't allow it. And part of that is my apology because I kind of pulled this together at the last minute. But the main reason I wanted to have y'all here is to tell you how much I appreciate you, each one of you, what you're doing for our community, and your willingness to work together with us, which I think is at a critical time in our community. It's not easy to be in politics. It's not easy. It's not easy to hold office, is it, Doc? Not at all. In fact, when I decided to run for mayor, people asked me, had I lost my mind? I thought my wife was going to throw objects at me a few times in the house when we talked about it, but she didn't. But when I did decide to run, I had to find a location to put a headquarters together. And just by coincidence, it wasn't on purpose, but my headquarters ended up being right here behind City Hall and right in front of the courthouse. And right there across from me was Mr. Brooks, who has been my supervisor for over 30 years. And I intentionally ran as an independent because I thought it was important that I show folks that I wasn't partisan to either party or any individuals in the community. I think when you're running for mayor, especially in this day and time, it's helpful for people to see that you're running to serve them and not a certain party or certain individuals or certain interest groups. And that's not always easy to do. I went across from my headquarters and met with Mr. Brooks and asked him for any advice that he had and also for his support. And he quickly told me he would give me some advice, but that he was supporting my opponent. And he did. And we still remain friends and we still have conversations about how we can work together in the community. And I think that's what we should do in the roles that we serve. I said during the campaign that I'm not a very good politician and I really don't want to be, but I truly do want to try to be a public servant. The part that I've enjoyed the most about being mayor is when I'm visiting with the citizens out in the community, listening to them, what their hopes and desires are, what their concerns are. And I'm always going to work hard to try to live up to that. It won't always be easy. We won't always agree. But I think we can work hard at not being disagreeable and trying to determine what's best for the community as a whole. And so that's why I wanted to bring some of y'all together today, or as many as we could. I've met most of you, but not everybody. And, well, I think I have met everybody in here. There were a few that we had invited that I had not met, and I continue to want to reach out. And the ones that couldn't come today promised that they would try to come at another time. And I hope we can have these types of meetings on a regular basis. One of the things, and this is not a formal meeting, and I'm going to just say a few more words, and then I'm going to sit down and enjoy my sausage muffin and coffee from a local coffee house here in town that does a great job. And then I would like to hear from some of you and some of your ideas. Obviously, one of the things that I'm interested in talking about are the ARPA funds that we have coming down to the local area, which I think can have a major impact on the citizens of Columbus and Lowndes County. I know there's some opportunities to leverage those dollars at the state and federal level, and I'm very committed to trying to work with the City Council to figure out what is the best options for the citizens of Columbus and Lowndes County. I've asked for people to give us feedback. We had two engineering firms that spoke to the last City Council meeting that gave us proposals on how they would like to help us determine how to best use the money and leverage it. We've been told by leadership at the federal and state level that this is money that is transformational for our communities. And I think we really need to try to work hard to determine how best we can use that. We also have some money that's coming our way through an infrastructure bill and the Build Back Better Act coming out of DC. I think we just need to always try to be the best stewards of the money that we receive from the government to benefit the citizens that we're here to serve. Some of the challenges that we're facing in Columbus is income for our citizens. The average per capita income for white residents in our area is over $40,000, just over $40,000. The average for African Americans is a little over $17,000. The median income is $36,000, and our poverty rate is 28.1%. Those are numbers we shouldn't forget. Those are numbers that we should use as an opportunity to improve the quality of life for our citizens. We've got to do a better job of attracting industry and retail into this area. As I've said many times, I'm a big proponent of education. I believe the answer to the questions that we face, the serious issues that we face in poverty and crime, you can always link back to education. So I think of the children first. I always will. And I think that when we're trying to make these difficult decisions, and they're not easy, that's what we should think about. How are we making this a better community for our children? And I will always push that, and I always will believe that. So I believe that's why we've got to take this opportunity very seriously. And I wanted to visit with, especially the folks that are heading back to Jackson, in case we didn't see them again, that we could at least get some ideas from them of how we might potentially work together. I've also said that our Lieutenant Governor told us when we were on the coast this summer with the Mississippi Municipal League that we needed to become best friends with our friends in the county because the county was getting more money than the city. They were getting it directly from the federal government, not through the state government as we have. Columbus received it that way because it was based on this population of your city. And so we have extra strings attached to ours because it does come down through the state government. But some areas that I think that we really need to talk about is leveraging the state and federal money sources. In Columbus, we have some serious issues with drainage. And as I mentioned earlier, we have some poverty-related issues here too. The areas that we've been told the money can be used for is in public health response to the pandemic, offsetting negative impacts of that in the community, public housing assistance, premium pay for essential workers, water and sewer and broadband infrastructure. Now, having said that, that's always not clear cut how exactly we can leverage the money in those areas. We're still getting information down from the federal government to help us understand how we can best use the money. And I don't think the Treasury Department has actually sent down the last guidelines. I think we're still waiting on those. So we're going to have to tackle this, I think, with level heads, with trying to listen to one another and work the best that we can. But at the end of the day, we need to always leave as friends and hoping that we're doing the best that we can. I've talked to each of you, and many of you have told me why you decided to run for office. And without exception, it's because you wanted to make a difference in people's lives. Yesterday, I had the opportunity to visit with a lady in town, Samantha Koger, who lives on 15th Avenue. And she wanted to sit on her front porch and talk about some of the issues that she's facing in her neighborhood. It was from speeding. It was from, there was a murder not too far from her house a few weeks ago, which was a little unnerving for her. But she also sent me these videos of the flooding right there on 15th. She said she's lived in that neighborhood. She's 50 years old, and she's lived in that neighborhood her entire life. And she said she's never can remember when this wasn't happening right across the street from her house and in the back area of the school. And so when she and I sat and talked about all these issues, we were talking about how we could all work together to potentially solve these problems. The thing that struck me most about her was that she had a blessing box that she had just put in her front yard. And she feels it every day. I'm not expecting that. I'm not even a crier. She fills it with items that she hopes will make life a little better. I posted that picture, and some other good citizens. See why I love Angie so much? She's wonderful. When I posted that picture, there were some good citizens in Columbus who contacted me and wanted to know where she lived and how they could help. Last night I also went to a meeting that Councilman Jones helped facilitate at Sim Scott, where there were a lot of citizens there that were very concerned about the issues that our kids are facing in school. And they want answers and they want to make a difference. And there's some folks that were there that have been volunteering their time to try to help these kids. And these are the people that I think we should all be trying to serve. And I'm determined to do it. So, having said that, and standing up here absolutely making a fool of myself, crying, I'm going to turn it over to somebody else that would like to talk about some of these issues and how we feel we can work together to solve them, because I truly believe we can. And when I tell you that I am very grateful for each and every person in this room, I'm being as honest as I can be, and I truly mean it. And I'm looking forward over the next years to work with y'all to make a difference for these citizens who are depending on us. They're counting on us, and we need to do everything we can to make a difference in their lives. So I'm going to eat my muffin and drink some coffee, and if somebody else would like to come up and say a few words, we're more than welcome. Or you can sit in your seats, can't they, Joe? Can we turn the camera to face them if they don't want to get up?
The microphone still is up there where you are. They need to come up there.
Oh yeah, if y'all don't mind coming up here. There are some mics at the table though.
They can come to the table.
If they're sitting at the table, you can talk.
Yes, sir.
So, would anybody like to say a few words?
I got a couple of questions.
Yes, sir.
I didn't speak to everyone this morning. Good morning. My concern is this. The session is going to begin pretty soon. And one of the things I'm sure that all the legislators can probably attest to, there's probably going to be a fist fight down there. They've got more money than they probably ever had. They got to deal with redistricting. They got to deal with medical marijuana. So there's a host of issues down there that can be controversial. And I think that it behooves the county and city to have a plan. We've talked about this money, and we've talked about what we'd like to do, but there's no plan. And so if Chuck and Carl and all of them go down there and say to the lieutenant governor, whomever, where's the plan? What is it you want? You know, so my whole thing is, there in my mind, there's a sense of urgency to put something together, some pecking order, that whenever, you know, however y'all do it, you know, you walk in and So this is the Columbus Lowndes County plan of action, and it may be necessary that they be separated, just like we got these municipalities, Artesia, Crawford, Caledonia, that they may be more effective getting money as small municipalities than grouping it all in. But we have voted to hire a consultant and work with the PDD to come in and kind of lay some groundwork. But I think the most important thing is I saw what the governor said was going to be his priority. I've looked at all the money supposedly in terms of the breakdown. And the question to the legislators is, how do we access that money? And I think sewer has come up at our board a lot, and we've got a number of water systems. We've got a group of water systems, not just talking about the municipality. You're talking about Prairie Waters, or South Lowndes, East Lowndes. Some of these water systems are better off than others. And so my thing is, if water and sewer is going to be in my Chuck and my prairie country boy mind, that there needs to be a priority. Here are the water systems. This is what we want to do. We're looking at water and sewer, and we at some point we need to have all of them on the table and see what the cost estimates are, and how do we assess the money. Is that I think it's $35 million for water and sewer. And one of the other things he said was tourism. Is that how do, is that just going to be at the state level, if it's going to trickle down? I don't know about on the municipal website, but if you go on the National Association of County Officials website, they've uploaded hundreds of proposals from around the country in terms of their thinking about the money. And I just think that we may be, not behind, but I think we need to start henceforth that we outline what our priorities are, and let the legislators tell us how we need to do this. And we don't have a lot of time, because they go back in about a month and a half. And I think that it needs to be in the hopper. It needs to be in the hopper, and so that's the thing I would challenge the bodies here, is that let us separately and collectively talk about what it is we want. And of course, some of the desires of the city may be separate from the county. And I don't know whether it make good sense for us to put a package together. I would think, just from having been around a little while, county put theirs in, city put theirs in, small municipalities put theirs in, but we just don't have a plan, and nothing in writing, anything structured. I guess quick as we get out of a consultant in, he'll be able to kind of give us some framework for doing this. And I think that needs to be the priority, so we can start talking to other people, because they're already talking. I've talked to Congressman Thompson and some others. People are already talking about the money they want, and so we need to do the same thing. That's just my concern. Some areas are moving faster, and we may not be moving slow. We may just be on time, but is the session is going to be a high-speed session. I got enough sense to know that. And there's going to be a lot of bickering going on. They may get mad about redistricting, and we get killed on the money. I mean, those are some real issues, and I think they can attest to that. But that was the only thing. That's been my concern, is let's put it on paper, because one of the things that you're going to have to do anyway, you're going to have to submit that proposal up the ladder to the Treasury Department. And so we put a dollar and cents to what it is we want, even if we have to change it, because you've got till December 2024 to and of course, as it relates to county, you could get a whole new board, and they come in and say, we don't want to do any of this. But I think right after Thanksgiving, there needs to be a sit down. Let's put our wish list together, and so we can start. You know, I know that Lieutenant Governor's been going around the state saying all this, but he's got to deal with the House and other folks. So what he wants and what they want may be two different things. That's for Chuck and Carl and all of them to figure out. We just need something in y'all's hand that when you go down there, you all can start lobbying for us.
That's right. That's right.
Chuck, have y'all heard, I mean, I know it's a legislative agenda on the lieutenant governor's side. Have y'all heard anything about using that as match money?
That, yes. Oh, I thought-
Do you think it's gonna be a reality? I mean,
According to what I've heard, Polk is chairman of this special committee.
yeah,
Or-
and they've already met once, right?
Yes, and if it's used right, the city can get a dollar for dollar match.
And county.
Is it county too? I wasn't sure
Yeah,
about
I think
that.
they're talking about matching it dollar for dollar, so,
So it's kind of, but they're not, now, Senator Polk told me that they weren't gonna match something like Octavia County's park over there.
no,
It's gotta be for infrastructure.
like water, sewer,
Yeah,
drainage.
so that's the smart thing to do, yeah.
I mean, that's where you get into, if you're paying 50-cent dollars and get the full dollar for it
Yeah.
from the county side and the municipality side, I think it'd be crazy not to take advantage of that.
That's right.
You know, but at the same time, we don't want to spend all our money in infrastructure simply because we get other money when there's other needs in the community. I think,
Well, and that infrastructure bill that's coming down from up there could,
yeah, we may be old men by the time that passes.
Hell, we already are, Lou.
Not old as some of them, but
Maybe that's
young as
gonna
some.
Let me say something, to clarify my brain about what's going on. We got $1.2 billion that's going to the state. Lowndes County, in addition to that, has a little over $11 million coming straight from the federal government. We've already gotten half of that. The city of Columbus has got a little over $5 million coming to them. So when we get together and do our plan, we need to differentiate between what's the county's money and what the county can get from the state and put those two together in some manner. There's, hypothetically, here's Crawford, RT here in Caledonia, for example, and the money that's given to the municipalities is based on population. And here's Crawford doesn't have very many people, and here's Caledonia doesn't have very many people, and neither does RT here. So they didn't get very much money. So they've got needs for, let me just talk about Caledonia, which I represent. They haven't expanded their city limits in probably 50 years. Still a very small municipality and only has about 1,200, 1,300 people. But the surrounding suburbs and the surrounding housing and everything is unbelievable, the number of people that have moved up there. And because of that, the town of Caledonia has expanded their water system and has expanded their sewer system, because as long as no other water system has jurisdiction, they can move out 2 miles outside the city limits. So here they are needing money to expand their water system and their sewer system, but they don't have any tax base or not getting any money in from the government because of their population. 1,200 people, I think they got a total of $300,000. They've got needs that well over $1.5 million, $2 million just to service the people there in their system. And so we do need to put a plan together on that. Should we use state money for that? Should the town of Caledonia go up and ask for money out of that $1.2 billion, or should they come to the county and ask for it, because half of their population that's going to be using this sewer system is in the county and not in the municipality? So who do they go to get don't need to have the town of Caledonia asking for money, the county asking for money, and then the state asking for money all for the same project. We need to probably put them together and see if we can't come up with some kind of solution. And I'm just using that as an example. That's happening all over. For example, another thing, we've got a drug problem in the county, in the city. And we don't have very many places that treat that or handle that. We've got community counseling, but who other than that? We got the recovery house out there that's primarily just for females, run by community counseling. They have a need for some more facilities out there. They come to the county to ask us about maybe building a new building or a dormitory or something for those females, but we need to look at those kind of things, not just infrastructure things, but I think that's some things we need to look at.
My concern, and again, Chuck, and that's the reason we need you all here. I would not, in my thinking, I would not be interested in submitting a city-county proposal. My interest would be the city would submit their own proposal, the county submit their own. Why? Because you've got a municipal league that's lobbying for you all. We got a supervisor association lobbying for the county. And so probably we may have some similarities, but we're certainly going to have some differences, and we don't want to lose our differences within the similarities. One of the things that has historically happened over the years, you know, one of the things when they were talking about all the money Jackson needed to fix their water system, you know, and Benny said, look, you know, we got some little small towns in my district, Glendora and some other places. I would tend to think small municipalities, and again, as you all would know better, municipalities where we may need 10 million, they may need $1 million. So a small municipality may stand a better chance on their own of getting some money. You know, if we tie everything in together and divide it up, is that there may not be enough to do anything. And I think the other thing is, if we're going to start, and I'm certainly for money to community council and some other things, but when we start building stuff, after the money's gone, there's going to be money to sustain it. But I in my mind, Chuck, Carl, all of you all, I just think that each entity need to put their own package together, and we submit it. Now, Harry talked about the ARPA money, but we got, what, $4.3 billion for infrastructure money, and the breakdown is $435 million just for water and sewer. So you got two pots of money down there that can be used, and so how we access that money, you know, the ARPA money is different from the infrastructure money. I think Kevin and probably Mr. Carroll them are probably on top of, you start talking roads and bridges, you know, you all would know how to put that, but some of that other stuff is that the big conversation in my board and seemingly here is sewer. And so I don't know how many water systems in this county, you know, I know west of the river you got what, Prairie Water, South Lounge, what else is over there, Chip? East Lounge, and then you start talking about Artesia, Crawford, Artesia, three municipalities that separate is they are going to have, I know,
Southgate sewer.
well, Southgate, I know Artesia and Crawford are probably going to hire their own consultants. I know they are. And so they're going to have people out front looking out for them. And so, you know, they do their thing and everybody's do their own thing. Those things that we can work on collectively in terms of hypothetically, if the city said, well, we need $250,000 from the county for, I'm just going to pull tourism out, then we ought to be able to develop the granting process to do that. You know, there are some things we can just interact on. But again, I'm not an expert on this. I just have spent considerable amount of time Jay stuff, and we've been talking a lot about what we need to do. And however we need to do it, it's that plan of action. We've got to put that proposal. I don't know how the city has to operate because they got their money through the state, which means they're subject to some of Shad White stuff more so than us, you know, but there needs to be a plan. The big ones on water and sewer, and we need to have every water and sewer entity that's interested put it on the table. And again, my question is, can we apply for money like for Prairie Water? I mean, how would a private entity like that, I mean, can they come to the board and say, get money for us? Or what?
I know I've talked to somebody in Tippah County, just in passing, and they're concerned about water associations. Chuck, think about Prairie Land Water, you got one person out there, are they gonna be able to go through the procurement process, you know, to where they spend money like they're supposed to spend it based upon all the procurement requirements, everything else? And what they're doing is, the county there is actually doing the work, doing the procurement process through the county offices, and then handing over the sewer system and the water system back to that rural water association. So those are the type of things that we got to think about as we move forward, especially if there's match money involved. You know, that can get pretty complicated, and you start drilling wells and expanding water systems. You've got DEQ and Department of Health you're going to have to deal with too, in all the permitting processes.
Well, the other thing that's most concerning to me, and I was stressed in an our board meeting, you know, yeah, I'm totally for supporting these small water districts and getting them upgraded, because long term, it grows the county. Without those needs being met, the county don't grow. That's a no-brainer. The other thing is, as leaders, it's our responsibility not to just focus on those things that are most important to us in our little area, but the entire county. So if they lack management to be able to oversee this funding, then it's our responsibility as leadership to make sure that management is there. So going forward, as we have these meetings to discuss what we do, how we make sure we secure not only funding for ourselves, but funding that can be managed by these smaller groups need to be a part of the discussion. And those people need to be in the room. Artesia, Crawford, and Caledonia mayors need to be in the room as well as the ones that are here, so they can speak for themselves to their needs. We're here talking about things that they need or don't need, and they're not here representing that conversation themselves.
Has Columbus, Mayor, have y'all heard from Columbus Light Water? Are there any of their needs there?
No,
So the only request that I know that we've gotten is from West Lowndes. Prairie Water. And then in Caledonia.
Well, I've gotten three.
So you
Two from west of the river, which are rural developments, and one from the city of Columbus, where we started a project. We talked about a project several years ago on Highway 69, below where the what's that store on the right there? On the right, where the Soberly Pool. The city lines there, from there back into down 69, they have a problem with sewage and water, especially during the winter months because of the water table level, and how sewage backs up into those homes and cause all kind of problems in the winter months. We tried to talk about a project several years ago. There was some fear from the citizens out in that area about participating in a project at that time with the city, because they were more fearful of the annexation by the city into that area than they were about getting help for those needs. We've gone back. We got a lot of calls from people out in that area. Now that they know about, and people know about the money, know about the availability of the money and what that money can be used for, now can we go back and talk about those projects? So I did have a meeting with Columbus Light and Water and some of their management people, and asked them to consider putting a project together out there to address that. And I mentioned that in one of our recent meetings also.
I have something for
for Carl and Chuck and you with Mr. Kelly. The reason the mayor put the meeting on was to unite. I don't like hearing separation. You can talk about Caledonia, you can talk about Artesia, but Columbus, the city, is a part of the county. You cannot separate the city from the county. This is just me talking. You can't separate it. So I think in going forward, I need to hear from Carl, I need to hear from Chuck. Which is the best way for us to do this thing? Are we to separate it, put the county by itself, or do we need to put everything in one pot and then we sit down at the table and come up how we going to distribute it? I think we're men enough to do this. What you guys think?
Well, according to, you need to separate it to make sure you don't spend over here together. You need to separate the entities so you can get as much money as you can get.
But that's my question. Which will be
Yeah,
best?
and you know, this is my thinking, there may be a genius out there, we may hire this guy and he says, fine, but herein lies the problem, is that you got whole different groups of people lobbying. I can't think of, in my time, where city and counties have gone in for collective grants, you know, like that. We are united in concept, but what I think we're talking about is the city may be in a better shape to get more money on their own versus the county. Is if you lump all that stuff together, is then you may minimize the amount of money. It's not a matter of being separated. We can figure out how we need to work together. Is we're talking about submitting proposals based on our needs, facts, figures, and it is, you all want to do the same thing. And they may be a little bit different. I'm not talking about us being two different bodies, which we are. I think it's just routine procedure to submit proposals on your own merit. Because again, I know that Derek and the Association of Supervisors, they're gonna be down there lobbying hard for counties. I don't know how y'all municipal association work, but I would assume that too. And so I would think, and Chuck M can come back and say it's totally wrong, I would think that they're gonna have a basket somewhere that says municipal water and sewer, county water and sewers, and they're gonna look at it like that. You know, because you got a whole lot of small municipalities in this state. You know, is some of these counties, Hines County is what, getting $44 million, okay? So some of these counties are gonna be in a better position, so you're probably gonna have somebody looking at this and that. And so to come in with a Columbus Lowndes County package, let me ask your engineer over there, if I may, Mayor.
Sure.
I mean, kind of what's your thinking?
Well, there's definitely.
Wait, come on to the microphone.
I guess a match didn't help either, right? So, there's obviously different pots out there from both sides.
Right.
There are synergies though in coming together.
Right.
Lieutenant Governor wouldn't have made that comment previously, you know, without knowing there are some things that can be done, when you do come together. Everybody's gonna have their own concerns, and what I'm hearing here, obviously, is you do have to bring everybody to the table. So I'm glad this conversation's happening, but, putting in a package together, I think there's so many different avenues that are gonna be funded, and there's gonna be changes in the final rule that comes out, that all this discussion right now, is really preliminary, and it's good, but there's gonna be some doors, I think, that are gonna open in the final rule that's gonna allow you to do something different. You have 3 years to obligate these funds, 3 years to plan it, which you have to do. And I think coming together and having these discussions over this next year, coming together after Thanksgiving is perfect to start throwing things on the wall to see what sticks. But we all know there's more concerns here than there'll ever be money. And I think rule number one is figure out how far you can leverage this money to get as many things covered as you can. And so, and then on top of that, like the mayor said, there's a lot of different avenues to spend, but the devil's always in the details. There's some things that you can spend money on the high part that you think, okay, like drainage. But there are certain rules in drainage where you can put this money toward, I'm gonna use ARPA, for example. So you may have to go to another pot to spend that from. And so you have to kind of take and see what baskets all the different projects fit in for funding, and then how you leverage each one as far as you can.
Kevin, and again, to all of you all, My concern is this, I know we got to December 2024, but we just got a few months before they go to Jackson. They're gonna divide that money up soon. So we need to, I'm not worried about on down the road, what I'm concerned about is how do we get our plan in the hopper come January, so when they adjourn, what, in April, that we got a check coming.
Well, let me,
Don't you think that's gonna come out as somewhat of an omnibus bill that splits out this stuff? They're probably not gonna fund projects directly. They're gonna say, okay, Lowndes County has, of their $11.6 million, they've got, $8 million they're gonna use for water sewer improvements. And so they would match that money through an omnibus bill. The issue is that, the House, let's say Hinds County, they have, how much did you say, 44 million?
44 million.
44 million. I know that the city of Jackson has a real issue with their water issues. I mean, to the point of almost litigation, from what I understand.
Right.
So if they go in there and they say, well, all of our money is going to be spent on water sewer, 44 million of it, they can say 44 million of it's going to send, we need a match of 44 million. You know, going to spend 44, match 44. There could be some issues with that. So I see the legislature, just from what I know of them, probably doing some omnibus type bill that allocates that money per county or per municipality, and not necessarily on specific projects. That doesn't mean we shouldn't have, you know, those things earmarked, but I just see that coming in as a big pot. Don't you, Chuck? Do y'all see that happening that way?
Hell,
Who knows?
There's no telling what's gonna happen down there, but I think if you itemize everything and keep it separate, we're all together, but I'm talking about, we need to keep it separate, itemize it, and get it together for us so we can go down there with it.
Yeah.
Let me say something.
Yeah, I know.
Most all of these things that we need money for are local issues. And rather than having the state legislature or the federal government telling us what our problems are and what our needs are, Chuck, is it any way in the world out of the $1.2 billion that it could be split up and the state just give each county the same way the federal government did? The county's got 60,000 people. Could we get $60,000 worth of, split it up on a basis based on population, and the state give that money to each county based on their population or some formula, and at the same time do the same thing to the municipalities. Have a formula of that $1.2 billion the same way that the federal government's formula is, and then we as a county or you as a municipality could figure out what your needs are, and you could spend that pot of money as long as you're within the guidelines, instead of having to go through all this stuff. You know, is there any way that the senators and the representatives can have that $1.2 billion allocated the same way the federal government allocated it by population?
When we get down there, we'll just have to ask and see, Harry. That does make the best sense, population.
But you still, let us not forget, it's two pots. Is the infrastructure money, which is $435 million for water and sewer. That's one pot. The opera money is different. They've got to use the same guidelines as we do. So we have to find what is the best pot to try and access. Is it the infrastructure money where it's $435 million, or the opera? So the discussion down there is going to be, how's he going to do the two separate pots? Is obviously that the infrastructure money is coming straight to municipalities and counties. ARPA money could go a lot of different ways, because he said tourism is one of his big things, critical race theories, whatever in hell that is a big thing for him. So he's already outlined those things with the ARPA money. It's that infrastructure money that we need to be asking questions about. If we're talking water and sewer, $435 million is earmarked specifically for that. So we need to be calling Derek and whoever you all's guy is and try and Steve Gray and them.
Steve Gray.
Yeah, and say, okay, what's the conversation about the infrastructure money and the ARPA money? But I think if we got our facts and figures together, we can just shift it accordingly. All I'm saying is, let's get our plan together. I mean, let something put in somebody's hand. And then still look at the federal level for some more money. If the Build Back Better, Best Buy, whatever it is passed, then it's more money. But you gotta have, Kevin and them can't go down there without a plan.
And it's all free money too, they say.
And nothing, as Punchy Walter said, the only free cheese is in the trap.
Well,
I want to say.
yes, sir.
I want to say that, it's good for us to be here this morning, but whatever happens, Chuck and I and our colleague, it's gonna come from you all, county, city, municipality, it's gonna come from you all. And we're gonna carry that and try to get out of that as much and the best we can. But if y'all don't come together and agree on something, we're gonna just give you something. I mean, we just might well be straight and talk the thing properly now. So if you try to get all this separate stuff, you very well might come out with less. Right. The way I, have seen it on the house side, how we conduct the business, because you're gonna have so many wants out here, so many needs, and then we don't want the small parts of the county to get smothered out by the big part of Lowndes County. See, I don't need down there in Crawford to get smothered out. They don't get nothing, because they seem like that's what already goes on. And down in that Plum Grove area, those that know about Plum Grove, see, they need water and sewage too. Yeah. And the municipality need water and sewer. They got situation down there in Crawford flooding people's yards, flooding their houses. It's been going on forever. They're gonna get a little money, but like Supervisor Sanders said, small counties, small parts of the county got those needs just like the big portion of Lowndes County, just like Columbus City. Right.
Let me say this as a naive mayor who is looking for kumbaya moments with everybody, trying to get us all to work together. I appreciate what people have said about Caledonia and Crawford and the other areas. I had what I called a mayor's summit early on with the mayors in the Golden Triangle. And one of the reasons for that was, obviously we're all competitive in our areas, wanting to do the best that we can. But if you talk to the citizens throughout the Golden Triangle, many of them see us as the whole Golden Triangle as kind of a family of people that want to do, and that if the more we work together, the better the whole area is. A rising tide lifts all boats. And so when we were talking with the mayors, they were excited about it. We haven't had our second meeting yet, but we're going to hopefully before the end of the year. And one of the things we talked about in that meeting was when we're working on projects, not just on this money, but if we're looking for grants, there's a lot of grant opportunities out there, even in the private sector, for communities like ours in the area. And while we're doing that, if something doesn't fit one area, but it could, if we're working on something that doesn't really fit Columbus, but it might help Crawford or somewhere else, then we should work together to try to make that happen. And I think, we're not in a perfect world and we're never going to all agree on everything, but I think it's important, as Mr. Sanders said when he pointed that out, that we're aware of the needs of the other areas in our community when we're working on these ideas. In my mind, Columbus and Lowndes County is one, right? That's in my mind because that benefits the city if we think of Columbus and Lowndes County as one. Because the citizens primarily do. The people who live in the city and the people in the county believe that the better Columbus does, the better the whole community does in the city and the county. I think we can expand that out to the whole Golden Triangle and try to work together. Now, how well we can do it on this particular project, I don't know. But it seems to me, even if we have separate plans, that some of the plans within inside the county are automatically gonna benefit the city, because Columbus is in Lowndes County, correct?
Right.
So I agree with everything that everybody has said, but I do think we need to have as much of a specific plan that's gonna benefit this entire community as quickly as we can, because it's a 5-year, we gotta spend the money within 5 years, isn't that correct?
December 2024.
Right,
Or the 26th.
Yeah.
We gotta
Is
have
it?
it obligated.
But yeah.
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 We gotta have it obligated.
See, we don't even have that straight yet. We gotta get that straight in our minds. But I think that what we need to do is, as quickly as we can, try to find those big issues that are gonna be beneficial in this, because I truly believe this money can be transformational for this community if we do it right. And I think this meeting is a good way to get it started, but I think we are gonna have to put some, pen and paper together soon and see where we can work together to try to move this forward. And obviously, my focus is on Columbus, but I also want to be mindful of the other areas within the county and region that can benefit from this as well. Because again, I think, and again, me being naive, I think the long term, the smarter we are in using this money, the more it's going to benefit all of our citizens.
I wanna make one final statement, Mayor.
Yes.
City and county operate under different governmental rules.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we have to get permission, y'all go do it. Artesia and Crawford have been successful, and I don't know about California, but they've been extremely successful over the years getting water and sewer grants as small entities. Okay? The other thing is, and that doesn't preclude them from coming to the table, they are preparing to hire their own consultants. Caledonia is not, I don't guess. But so Artesia and Crawford is preparing to hire their own people, and obviously they've got something in mind, so if we're gonna reach out to them, we need to. But as it relates to the infrastructure money, again, that's one part, but as it relates to the ARPA money, the county has talked about several things. And I don't know whether you all have talked about several things. If hypothetically, if all you all's ARPA money go in drainage, then there's not much we can coalesce on other items. You know, we've talked about, we've made some wish lists that include mental health, I think Tripp mentioned homeless, and we talked tourism. So we of course, we got more money, but we've got a different wish list. So if y'all are gonna spend, if y'all gonna spread your ARPA money out, then we need to lay the plans on the table and see where we can coalesce. Because one of the things Harry said, we're talking about spending some of this money in the city. What is the city gonna put in? If hypothetically, I'm using tourism, is I think one of the things I put on my wish list was $500,000 for tourism to reach out to some of these other organizations. Well, if y'all are interested in putting some money in tourism, let's just say 200,000, then we can pull back 300. Those things that you all spread out, that we don't have to go through the legislators. We can decide those ourselves on the opera money, on the what I call the small stuff. We've talked about nonprofit organizations. If y'all plan to give some to nonprofit organizations, then we can do that collectively. You all give so much, we give so much. But we've got to see how we plan to spend this ARPA money and see what we can coalesce on without going to Jackson. Because what we're being told, they can set up a granting procedure. The last meeting we went to in Oxford, the auditor's office says you can create a granting program. They have to provide services. You all give certain agencies money that we can't unless we get private local legislation. So when you go through that category of mitigating the pandemic, if you all gonna put some money there and we're gonna put some money, then we're looking at the apples to apples. And so you all have to tentatively put y'all proposed list together for ARPA, and we put ours together and see where we meet. But on the infrastructure, it's a whole different pot. It's a whole different ballgame. So, you know, however, again, the bottom line is, we need something on paper.
Any other thoughts? Council? Advisors? Missy? Thanks for being here, we
It's a
appreciate
good
it.
meeting, Mayor, and, you know, I think the same way you do. People ask me where I'm from, I don't say Westland, I say Columbus. And, I just wanna see us all work together. And y'all get the numbers for us, and we'll go to Jackson with it and try to work and get our fair share of the pie best we can.
Chuck, if y'all could find out what their thinking is on allocating money, whether it's through a anonymous bill or a specific project, that would certainly help us. You know, that's where we need you all at to make those inquiries as to what the thinking is, with the lieutenant governor and certainly over in the House, because they may be thinking, and then it's easier to plug in if we know what some of their thinking is.
I'll text you today. You
Okay.
Eric and John. And Tripp.
Yeah, don't. You leave me out.
Well, what we're gonna do then is we're gonna go ahead and conclude this, but I hope people will stick around and visit some more. I wanna wish everybody a very happy Thanksgiving. I wanna thank you again for being here. I think this is a great first step, and I hope we will all continue to communicate even after this meeting concludes. I wanna thank Joe and Angela and the others in the city that helped us pull this room together for this meeting. And I also wanna thank Missy, because she is at every event around Columbus representing Congressman Kelly, and that's not an easy job to do. And we,
Only because he can't be here.
and hopefully he can be here sometime in the not too distant future, but we appreciate you being here. Does the media have any questions before we conclude that y'all would like to ask while we're still one-on-one? Okay.
I got a question.
Yes.
Where are we at on the discussion of earmarks? Is that still a discussion?
That is so slow. Way back in the summer, we were promised some earmarks were coming down, and we did a lot of homework on that, and I don't think anything has, they're still hashing that out. That was months ago. I mean, I kind of just thought that would move a little faster than it is, but.
We all got some earmark requests in though.
Exactly, but I'm not hearing any
Well, there's
answers,
a lot going
so.
on, so, okay.
Have you heard from them, or you?
No,
Okay.
is, normally I would talk to the congressman Benny a lot, but since he's been tied up with some other stuff.
Right. I've heard nothing lately.
Well, as long as we got something in the hopper, we don't wanna miss anything coming down, city up, you know.
Right, and that's what I understand, it's all still in the hopper.
Okay.
Any other last words or comments? If not, thanks again for your time, for your service, and I look forward to working with each and every one of you. Happy Thanksgiving.